Welcome to the Choreography of Negotiation podcast. Join us as we speak to the world's top negotiators with the focus of taking the reins and leveling the negotiation playing field. We'll provide actionable steps for you and your team to enhance and increase your negotiation, mediation, and arbitration skills for long-term success. The Choreography of Negotiation podcast is all about the art of the deal and coming to a fruitful win-win completion. So please, welcome your host, Sean Snowday.
Hello and welcome to the Choreography of Negotiation podcast. My name is Sean Snowday and I am the founder and the voice of the Choreography of Negotiation. Today we have Jeremiah Townsend on the line. Welcome, Jeremiah.
Hey, Sean, good to see you again.
All right. Yeah, it's great to have you on here. And, we all have our challenges in life and we are back again. Going over some of the challenges that we've had in the past and how we overcame them and how we're applying them and putting them out there for other people to live successful lives. But before we go into that, and I know the history of your name, but one of the reasons I wanted to get your name right is because you have a website, Jeremiah Townsend, but we just wanted to make sure how we get the spelling is JERAMIAH, right?
That's right. JeremiahTownsend.com. That's where I park all of my stuff. And occasionally you see massive changes on that website because I just throw my ideas out there and they land and they splatter all over.
That's good. That's good. It's just unpacking your brain and putting it out there for other people. And and that's kind of what I'm all about is actually having that there's a lot of content, there's a lot of information out there, but there's also the people that haven't heard it, even though I've heard it a million times. I mean, we're going to go a little bit into that, but before we go into that, we're talking a little bit about your mission, about your private mission, and mine is to help as many people as I can at one time. And it's funny because we were talking before this podcast right here, and I actually I did a thing through a Bible study, and there's these certain spiritual gifts that are in the Bible, and mine happened to be like there's the gift of prayer and the gift of discernment. Mine happened to be the gift of community, and then there's the gift of leadership. So this is kind of funny, but I have the gift of community, which means I can bring everyone together, but I don't have the gift of leadership. So I can't get in front of the room and talk to everybody because everybody will go, well, dude, we're here because you told us to come here, but we don't want to listen to you. It's kind of funny. But then you have these gifts as well that you apply to your business. So what mine's to help as many people as I can at one time. What is your type of mission statement, or how would you say that in a nutshell?
Sure. So my mission statement comes down to the Dominion Mandate. And for those who don't know, who aren't Bible thumpers like me, I'm a little bit of a religious zealot. The Dominion Mandate comes from Genesis 1:28. God gave dominion to Adam and Eve over all of the earth. And it's our job to bring God-honoring order to the world. And that is so deep and intrinsic. And we do that by adding value to other people, by adding value to other businesses, by adding value. So it's always value driven. It's very much value for value. If I can't drive value, I'm not doing my job right.
Wow. This is going to be an amazing podcast for me because through a lot of the work that I've done, one of the main things that came up about 6 or 7 years ago is that I'll never be valued. So this is actually going to be very powerful for me. But tell me a little bit about how you apply that to your business and how you got to where you're at now and how you can bring that all together to the world and what you're doing now in the business. And again, for our listeners, we started out with a little bit of a religious thing, but this is for entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, brokers.
Yeah, so I've been an investor for over a decade. for close to, I don't know, 15 years or more. I've been an investor and an entrepreneur. I had to learn to be an entrepreneur. So I'm a serial entrepreneur by training, I wasn't born that way. And I've been an investor, I've become a business broker, and I've been a long-time business advisor. And how it started off was first I had a couple of businesses, and then I went through some great business mentorship with my father-in-law, which was phenomenal, Steve Schlegel, and Mentoring to Mastery. Great guy. I can't say enough good things about him. And I definitely I bring him up a lot because he is a CPA, a lawyer, certified financial planner, certified business valuationist guy, and a lot of other degrees and certifications. So that's where I got my business training, was a very high level, very well-rounded business application with dozens and dozens of high performing companies. And so I started off as an advisor. I ended up becoming an entrepreneur, buying and selling companies myself, building companies. And along the road, along that way, people always, first they thought I was crazy spending all this money buying a company. I mean, who spends $500,000, $1 million or whatever to go out and buy a company? That's just, most people do not have that experience. But I ended up helping other people over the last several years. So starting in 2022, I ended up going into full-time brokerage. And this is my big goal for 2023, is as I'm building this out for a business broker, I've come to the deep realization that other brokers are desperately in need of that organization to run their businesses better, to bring more value to their clients. And it's very deep. It's very intrinsic on multitudes of levels. And if God has given me any gift, it's distilling information to take complex problems and make a simple step-by-step outline for it. So I've applied that to business, and I'm applying that to business brokerage. We have an entire business broker training program and mentor program. So it's not just, hey, I wrote a book, I'm going to give you a book. It's we have ongoing training, we have ongoing mentorship to help people become better brokers.
Right. Yeah. And so then a lot of people that write these training programs. So I've worked with some of the top coaches in the world, and what I mean is marketing coaches, and just like some name dropping is like Frank Kern and that guy Jordan Belfort, and who was embarrassing to say his name at times, but anyhow, and, Jeff Walker. But I've worked with all these guys. But the thing is, before I got to that level, I did other things. Like I started out just getting certified in CPR. I was like, I got to get certified in something. So then I had all these challenges and had a big learning curve. And as I got through the learning curve, I started realizing everyone else is going through these challenges. There's a lot of people that must be going through this, and there must be a way that I can help them get through those challenges faster. So what were some of the challenges you experienced early on to where you realized, there's an easier way to do this, but you didn't know it till you were on the other side?
Absolutely. So I was really lucky and really blessed that I had such a great mentor to help me out to start everything. And I can't stress that enough. You mentioned Jeff Walker, and hilarious. I used to live in Durango, Colorado, where Jeff lives. So yeah, that's side story there. But I had this great mentor in my father-in-law. And so thankfully, the first thing I learned about business and stuff was we focused on business management, like how to structure a business, how to operate a business. And that's what people need to be doing. Who is it? It's Dice who does the you know which one I'm talking about. The OS system, scalable OS,
Yeah.
and that's a fantastic place. Something like that is a great place to start. And I've trained other people on similar systems, but that's insanely challenging because you have to know how a business runs. And so having an operating system or a management structure, knowing how that works is huge. And in my broker training program, I created what's called the 5x5 business system, and I actually give that away free of charge inside that broker training program. And it's similar to Scalable or the Entrepreneurial Operating System or something like that. All of them are honestly very similar. They have a slightly different approach and slightly different value propositions, and they're all fantastic. They really are. But that was the first thing. The second thing, and thankfully I learned this even before I got into it, I started working on business valuations, on how to properly value a business from an investor standpoint. Not from a selling standpoint, but from an investor standpoint. And that is key, because as somebody wants to sell a business, you get a lot of brokers, and I don't mean to disparage them, but I believe they have overvalued these businesses in a lot of ways, where they are outside of a realistic price point for an investor to buy. And statistically, if that were true, we would see that most companies wouldn't sell. That would be if what I'm saying is true, statistically, most companies wouldn't sell. And we know for a fact that it's over 80% of companies never sell. And those who do go with the broker, those that do sell, go with a broker a lot of times. But even those that go with brokers, 50% of those statistically don't sell.
Right. And why is that?
Because it's complicated. It is stinking complicated to know how to value a company. Right. And most brokers have not been long-term investors. And so they throw the numbers into a computer system, and they trust the computer system, but they don't really always understand the numbers or the value or the return cycles that investors are looking for. Right. And I can say, thankfully, when I started off, I was in the CPA firm working for my father-in-law, and his first gig he gives me, a company was going through a payroll audit, an IRS audit on their payroll. And he goes, build me a calculator spreadsheet to track dozens of employees over several years to track why they're getting audited and how. And so it ingrained in me from the very beginning, I have to understand my numbers and how I get there.
Right.
You've really got to understand it to do a good job at it.
Well, here's the thing. So I already know that you're not going to want me to say what I'm about to say. I'm going to
Darn it.
Is you're smart, right? And you're smarter than the average bear. So and I mean like Mensa and smart. And so the thing is that a person like you can see numbers differently than other people. But the gift that you have is being able to see it in a certain way, in a big, big way. And you're able to compound that in such a way to where other people will understand the numbers with ease and comfort, to where they don't have that anxiety. Like with me, if you bring me a receipt, if I buy milk, cheese, and a candy bar, and you hand me the receipt, I have an anxiety attack. I just hand it to my spouse and just say, you figure it out, because I can't, because she knows I can't do it, right? But you bring it in a way to where people will understand those numbers easily, right?
Well, that's the goal. That's the goal. So it's like when we do a business valuation, as an example, every business valuation, there are certified valuations and non-certified valuations. Right. But every business valuation method, there's lots of different ways of doing it, and there's different rules of thumb. There are countless, hundreds of rules of thumb, so you got to know which ones to apply. And the rule of thumb gets you in a ballpark, it gets you in the zip code. It doesn't get you to the street address. It just gets you in the zip code.
Right.
But then for business valuations, there are really 5 different key business valuation strategies. And And when I'm doing a business valuation, I'm always running through these 5. And then you kind of have to amalgamate them, and you have to understand how business works to find out which one to give a weighted value to. And if somebody hasn't looked up weighted values, it's great, great math experiment. Right. But the first one is an asset value. Then you have to look at the income value. You have to look at the market value. You have to look at the DSCR, what we call the DSCR, the debt service coverage ratio. And then you have to look at the revenue value. And not every business is going to be valued the same way. And there's some businesses, like if you're dealing with a business with a lot of MRR, monthly recurring revenue, it's going to have a higher value because of its intrinsic stability. It's going to be safer and have less risk to pay off. But if you're looking at a business with perhaps something in the construction trades, they have a slightly lower value for the most part because it's more transactional in nature. And so they're not going to be valued the same, even if they have the same income levels, because they have different risk values. Right. And I want to make that simple for people. And ultimately, a business is only worth what an investor will pay.
Right. Right. So, and as we get into that, because we're kind of getting like into the weeds with like so there's really a lot of brokers, and so there's a thing called the accidental entrepreneur, and a lot of brokers accidentally fall into becoming a broker. And then there's all this stuff they need to learn, like just certain words, certain documentation that they need to learn. And then the valuation is going to be one of them. So some valuations go anywhere from, 25 grand to over 100 grand. There's others that are under 10 grand. There's others that are 2 grand. And then there's the broker opinion of value. And so but if we were to set that all aside, what are some of the challenges a new broker would have, aside from like learning certain documents? What are some of the challenges they would have just stepping up to the plate?
So the several challenges that a new broker will have is, number one, understanding the workflow of a broker. Yeah. They have to know start to finish, how did they do lead generation? And then how did they do lead nurturing? What's their sales process and what are they selling? Because selling a business, that's one product offering. But are there other product offerings? For example, a business valuation or a business assessment or coaching to help shine that business up and get it ready for sale, or being a buyer's rep. These are all different products that a broker can provide. And then there's the sales negotiation strategies. That's another entire series. Holy buckets, Chris Voss did that great book on that. Black Swan. What was that book? You know what book I'm talking about. Oh, well,
it's the negotiation. Yeah, well, he's like the power negotiator.
He is. And I tell you, I've used some of his stuff for a long time, years and years, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. People need to understand how to negotiate from a position of humility. And that's so important. That's so important. And so being able to negotiate well, knowing how to negotiate a transaction, either for a buyer or a seller, there are different strategies on that. And then the post-sale transaction of going, what do I do with this business now that I've bought it? So do you give them the management training or the systems coaching on that afterwards? What's applicable? And that's an entire process right there.
Right. So then, but that gets into like investing and all that. But with what the new broker is there any like documents that they're going to run into that are going to confuse them?
Oh, absolutely. So most people don't know this. In a lot of states, you do not need to be licensed to be a business broker. But in 17 states, you either have to be a licensed real estate agent or a lawyer in 17 states. And so you have to know what your state laws are for business brokerage. At the same time, the federal regulators of the SEC just released about a month ago a statement about escrow and how escrow is handled for business brokers and intermediaries like myself. So you have to be up on those. Otherwise, you can get fined tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're unaware of those things. Right. So that's really important. And you have to make sure that you're using the right documents. For example, your letter of intent. Where is the right time to use the letter of intent? What are the specific clauses that you need to have in there? For your sales agreement, what's the right things to do in due diligence before your sales agreement? You're going to have to know that. And places like in the state of Texas, certain taxes follow the company, even if you're doing an asset sale and not a stock sale.
Yeah.
So you have to know, you have to be aware of some of these issues.
Yeah, and some of the things, so that kind of comes to like the business buyer, which I'm more on the buyer side,
yeah,
the investor side, is a lot of people don't know they acquire a business and the taxes come with it.
It can.
Or someone will take out a loan, will pay themselves. The company won't even pay for the interest. The company's not even making enough money to pay the interest of the loan, and then the investment makers, fudge up with the EBITDA to make it look like a profitable business when it's not. So you got to be able to see all these red flags.
Yeah,
and as a broker, those are some of the things that you do in advance, and that's kind of the benefit of, right?
Yeah, my background in the accounting firm really helped me with that. I am not an accountant. I want to make sure I'm aware that I've made that clear. I'm not an accountant. I left my father-in-law's firm because I don't like the accounting side. I know what I'm doing. I'm okay at it, but I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. But I know enough when I'm looking at the numbers, why they're doing what they're doing and why they make sense. I was so depressed in the CPA firm. I really was. So, right. But the point being with all that, one of the best tricks, and I'm telling, since Sean, I know you're dealing with a lot of buyers, one of the best tricks that a buyer can use is the earnout. And I think this is one of the most fair for a buyer and a seller. One of the most fair tricks you can use is make a down payment on the business, even use an SBA loan or anything like that to acquire the company, and then use an earnout for the additional portion. And using that earnout makes it so insanely beneficial. And this also can lower the barrier to entry for a business buyer. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but here's the grand plan, okay? Say you find a business that makes $1 million a year, a 7-figure EBITDA net income business. Great, fantastic. But that business might run, let's say it's $3 million. I'm just picking that number out. It's a rough number. Let's say it's $3 million. How are you going to come up with $3 million? Here's how you do it. You ready? You have to get the business seller to agree to it, but you put $1 million down. And now you're going, how do you come up with $1 million? I'm going to get to that. Hold on just a minute. So you put $100,000 of your own money, and you get that from a HELOC, a 401k, other investors, your savings account, and you create a sale price of $1 million for the business, and you give the seller $1 million up front. And then over the first year, you don't make any payments on the business because they make $1 million up front. And over that first year, you're going to pay off that SBA loan. And then you start making payments to the seller on an earnout basis where you're doing a net revenue split. And if that business goes up and you're making a 1.5 million or 2 million, guess what? The seller is going to make bank off of that. They're going to make more money off of it that way. They're going to make a lot more. And statistically, if they're wanting all their money up front, they're not going to get 3 million. They'll get $1.5 million, maybe 2. Right. So that you really do get a lot less if you want all the cash up front. So this is a win-win scenario where you can make a phenomenal result for both a buyer to lower the barrier to entry into a 7-figure company, and also to make it for the seller where they get a much better end result, where they get a lot more money in their pocket, pay less money in taxes. It's just mind-boggling.
Right. So then as a broker, do you set that all up?
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things you need to, what would be some of the golden nuggets you could drop for the listeners that are new, that besides what you just said, that other people may not reveal or tell them?
Sure. The first thing is you have to find somebody's motivation for selling. Forget about the price tag. Whenever I go into a negotiation, the first thing I say is they have their initial offering price, and I say, is it in the ballpark of fair? I don't even care if I think it's worth 2x and they're asking 3x, that's close enough. If they're asking 4 or 5x and I think it's 2x, we're pretty far off. But as long as you're in the ballpark of fair, I just agree to the LOI. I agree to their sale price and I get into negotiation. That's the first step.
Right. But if we could just back up for a sec, how do you know what the value of the company is compared to what they're saying?
You come to one of my valuation courses that I put on. I'm putting on a valuation course in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great. So then people will need to know how to do the valuation at a low level. Remember, we're not doing $100 million companies here.
No, these are companies that are anywhere from, making 100,000. Some of the companies I work with make upwards of $50 million.
Right.
But most of the companies that you're going to deal with, 95% of the companies are going to make under $10 million.
Right.
Just statistically.
Yeah.
So you're talking about mom and pop shops, average everyday shops, whether it's the Subway down the street or the burger shop or the tire repair place or the auto mechanic, whatever that business is, even online companies. These are average everyday companies.
Right.
So the first thing you should do is, of course, hire a broker like me, a broker advisor, so that we can help walk you through it.
Yeah.
But getting to understand valuations, absolutely. Anybody can do it. I teach a course on it. It's a simple 3-day course. It's 1 hour a day, and it's on Facebook Live and stuff like that. So if you find me on Facebook or on LinkedIn, you'll probably find one of my links to that course.
Yeah, and we'll come up with more of that later on in the podcast. But when it comes to the valuation, so you're saying once you learn how to do that. Now, this isn't it's not a true investment banker valuation, but it's more than a broker opinion value.
So what I create a combination, what's called a broker opinion of value and business assessment.
Okay.
And so because I'm a consultant and because I help companies grow, I know the levers to pull, the value levers in the company to really make them shine. Right. In one company, we were able to identify and recently help them implement some changes to potentially double their top line revenue. And we found the bottlenecks and we pulled those bottlenecks out. So you talked about valuation and pricing. When people get an idea of valuation, there's certified valuations and non-certified valuations. The problem with that is that certified valuations start in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. Right. And they're done by a CVA or something like that. That's where I learned all of my stuff, by the way. We had the certified valuations in the firm when I worked there.
Right.
And I can tell you, I provide a broker opinion of value. It's identical 95% of the time to a certified valuation, but I'm going to include a lot more different points of value on how to improve the company on those valuations. So I'm going to give them all of that information. And the truth is, most people don't need a $10,000 valuation or a $35,000 valuation unless they're working in middle market companies that are $10 million to $100 million. Right. They're not going to receive value on it.
Right. And that's where the investment banker would come in as compared a broker. And the thing with being a broker, and we were talking a little bit about how people were saying you don't need a broker or don't go to a broker. And, I was coached by this guy named Jay Abraham, and he actually said to me, oh, no, you want to deal with brokers. They're going to teach you more than anything. And you might find, and it turns out that a lot of people in my community that deal with brokers find actually really great deals that everyone is on a win-win. And the brokers there is not there to hurt anybody. They're there to help everybody, right?
That is exactly it, 100%. In fact, even though sometimes brokers are given a bad name, the truth is, as a broker, I'm a serious investor. I'm dealing with analyzing companies all the time, every day, day in, day out, and doing it for dozens and dozens of people. So that being the case, I get to see it. It's like telling somebody don't go to a doctor. Are you kidding? Go to a doctor. Go to a professional who knows what they're talking about. And especially when you're talking about a financial investment that will be millions of dollars or worth millions of dollars to you over the years, you'd be an idiot not to get, some experienced advice from somebody. I remember I had a talk with Jay Abraham once, and you know what he said about me? Man, he has an impressive beard.
You're like, thanks, Jay.
I was like, thanks, Jay. That was it. But that's the thing is you should go to a broker. And it's funny, as I've talked to people, I've talked to some big, serious investors over the years, and some investors only want to buy off-market deals. But I've had a lot of investors I talk to, they say, holy cow, Jeremiah, if every broker was like you, I'd work with you on anything. And I've met up with a couple of family offices and a couple of major investors, and they say, Jeremiah, any deal you bring me, just I'm happy to work with you. I don't work with any other brokers other than you. And I go, that makes me feel good.
and I think in your training, you'll learn how the people that come to your training will learn how to have that same thing said to them, how to build the relationship. So what family offices, the do's and don'ts of family offices, what to say and what not to say, right?
Yeah. There's so much. So the broker training that I provide, it's ongoing training. It literally, you sign up and you're in the group.
Yeah.
So, and every single month we put out more trainings. It's ongoing because it never stops. Our training never stops. Our learning how to improve never stops. And I want people to be uber successful, super successful.
Right. Yeah. And I have a thing. It's a silly name called Small Business Rocket Launcher, but people have been coming into that for years. I speak every Thursday at 8:30 in the morning Arizona time, which I hate saying because Arizona time doesn't change. But it's the only way I could say it on video, right? But yeah, so it's the same thing I was saying 8 years ago still applies today, but it could be a little different, with all this AI stuff coming out, but it's still going to be the same principles. So once someone connects, once someone finds a deal, right, what are some other documentation they might run into, or what are some of the challenges you had? Like, let's talk about one of your first deals that was that wasn't successful, that you went through it and it wasn't successful. Can you share a little bit about that? I know it sounds, but the thing is, there will be a lot of lessons in there.
So one of the deals that I had that wasn't successful, I had 3 deals in a row that just flopped on me. And so I had a couple of retail locations, and I started a landscaping business with my kids because I wanted to spend more time with the kids. And the kids, I go, what do you want to do? And they said they wanted to be outside and do a landscaping business. And me and my wife, for those who don't know, I have 9 kids. And so, got the big family. We homeschool. I'm bringing the kids with me in my businesses, teaching them business. So we start this landscaping business, and the first thing one of my first thoughts is start the business and then immediately start looking for companies to acquire. So I find a landscaping company to acquire. I actually find out that they don't even own their own company name with the state. So I register their business name with the state, and I start negotiations with them. I'm sure it's going to be a slam dunk, because I'm hot stuff. I know it's going to work out. And no, it doesn't work out worth a darn, because they wanted way too much for their assets, and they didn't want to split off some of their assets and sell them separately. They wanted me to take it all on. And I told them, I said, I don't want to buy this extra truck. You have too many trucks in your company. So you can keep these trucks. And his exact answer to me was, well, I don't want them. You have to buy them. I go, I don't want them. Just sell them to the dealership. If you think they're worth $50,000, sell them to somebody else. And his answer was, well, what if I don't get 50 grand? And I said, well, why should I pay 50 grand for them if you're not going to get 50 grand for them? So that's the first thing is that I learned is that people have an idea in their mind of what their company is worth. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it makes logical sense to you. They have this idea in their head, and it doesn't even have to make logical sense. He wanted me to buy something from him, and he was not willing to sell me his company for a realistic asking price. Right. He said, and I literally said, take it to a third party. And he took it to a third party to value it, and he wanted to sell it to me for 20% more. And I said, no, I'm not going to buy it for 20% more. Well, then I'm not going to sell you the business.
Yeah. And he probably still owns it.
No, he sold it. Some rich kid came into town, and his daddy wanted to buy him a business. So his daddy threw money at it, and they're actually doing really well. So I'm very happy for him. Okay. It turned out okay. So it ended up okay.
Yeah. So as you're carving stuff out, he's like, no.
Yeah, he just wasn't willing to do a realistic asset carve out on it. And I think that's important. Sometimes people they don't want to do carve outs. It's a take it or leave it. And you've got to make a decision whether or not you're willing to do that. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not.
So, and that's what this is, the choreography of negotiation. So with that, and I think you had another deal, and I'm not sure if it was you, but someone invested or bought a company where there is a bunch of different owners, and there was like 4 family members, and they were all arguing over.
Sure. So I think I know which one you're talking about.
And you had to referee it a little bit.
Yeah, so I ended up buying a company, and at one point in time, and there were a multitude of owners, and it was a great company, good people. Quite frankly, the difficulty was some of the family infighting, and that's actually very common. That's one of the key reasons businesses sell or close down, is fighting within the family. And what I had to do was I had to negotiate between the different owners, and I would meet with them separately. And I told them about this. I told them what I was doing, and I would meet with them separately, and I would say, okay, what do you want out of this deal? Let me help give you what you want. But just like I told you, you have to identify their motivation. And pretty much every single owner wanted something different. And so I would have to go to the next group of owners, and I would say, hey, let's give so-and-so XYZ, because I knew that's what they wanted. But I'd say, let's give so-and-so XYZ to keep them happy, and then we're going to negotiate something else to keep you happy. And that way we can keep the deal going forward. Right. And that was the key. It was about trying to deliver value, not being underhanded in any stretch, but finding out their motivations, what they wanted, and delivering on what they wanted out of the deal. Right. And so it was kind of complex. It ended up working out really well. There are some great people in the family. I really enjoyed that one. I've since closed that business down, walked away, sold off stuff, but it was a fantastic opportunity and it was a great learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I told you about my friend Casey, and he had there's a business that the parents passed and the kids were just draining it just was losing like 30 grand a month. And he went in and he just looked at the business and whether he should buy the business or not. So he bought the business. He took equity, but he had the most equity out of everyone. And then he called together a business meeting and he said, everyone with the last name Anderson, you're fired. And he just got rid of all the family members and it started making 20 grand a month within 90 days.
Yeah,
he saw what was happening, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of, when I acquired that company, it brought a lot of stability. I made a lot of changes to the company, and this was before COVID. We ended up struggling in COVID, and I ended up shutting that one down directly because we serviced large event venues and other issues that dealt specifically with COVID.
Yeah, the event industry took a huge hit.
Yeah. But it created a lot of stability, me coming in there. And that's and getting those other owners out of the picture. And like I said, they were good people. It was just, there was some, the issues that happen with family businesses. Those are the sorts of negative things that did occur, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So back to like with doing the broker thing. Now, some of the things that come in there, like you were talking about some of the documentation. What are some other challenges other than like the documentation that a new broker is going to run into and go, okay, I can't really wrap my head around this? What are some other things, just some basic principles or some basic processes or systems that they're going to need to know before they jump in the fire? Because again, a lot of these people are accidentally coming in to this situation. So there's a lot of new brokers, and there's always new brokers, and there's a huge churn, just like realtors.
Yeah, there is. Absolutely, there are. In fact, when I moved out to Texas, I talked to every single broker within like 100-mile radius of me because I want to build with people. And I was surprised at how many offices offered business brokerage services, and they had people who had never bought or sold a company saying that they were a broker.
Right.
And I was amazed, and I'll tell you, it was over 75%.
Yeah.
So me, just as a flat out investor, I had tons more. I had way more experience than all these brokers. That was mind boggling. I did find some with that were very knowledgeable and experienced. But the thing that a broker really needs to understand is somebody coming into being a serious investor or a broker is that it takes on average 9 months to close a deal. This is not a short sales cycle. This is a long sales cycle.
Yeah.
I've done a deal in as fast as a week. Technically, it was a weekend. I've done some pretty fast deals. My fastest deal was I heard about it on Thursday. I looked at it on Sunday, and I signed the paperwork on Monday. So that was like a 5-day deal or something.
Yeah.
But that being the case, a broker needs to understand, new brokers, there's a long deal cycle, and it's not like you're going to sell 100 businesses. On average, you're going to sell around five or six.
Yeah.
And that it might take you a year or two to get up to that level, just like real estate agents or anything else. It takes you a couple of years to get to that average level. So can you afford to live for 6 months to a year without getting a solid paycheck? That's a serious question, and a lot of people can't.
Yeah, and they have to, and there's definitely a spin on it. And there's also a lot of the people, like my friend's a recruiter, and he makes anywhere from 100 to 200 grand a year.
Yeah.
He literally only does 2 to 3 deals a year. And he did a deal where he made $120,000 and in one day, right? And this is what he tells people. Oh yeah, I had a good day that year.
Yeah. So I'm working on a deal right now that if the deal went through, I'd get paid a little over $1 million.
Right.
That's a really good day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not every day. That's
Right.
not every day. And there's I'm working on deals. Some deals are smaller and I get paid 10 grand. Other deals are better and I get paid, 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand.
Right.
But it's not every day. So you have to be able to maintain that cash flow cycle and understand it before you get into it.
Yeah. So let's get in. We're coming to the bottom of the hour. And I think we did have some technical difficulties with this podcast. So I don't know if we're at an hour, but we're coming up to the top of the hour. So let's talk a little bit about your program. So there's going to be like, how many steps are in it? How many days is it? How many hours in those days? Let's just drill down into that. Like day one, how long is day one? What day do you expect to have it on? How many hours is it? And what will they learn on day one?
All right. So let's see. Let me pull up my calendar really quick. I have put together this business valuation training. So I have a Facebook group called Buyers and Sellers Network, Business Buyers and Sellers Network. So check me out on Facebook, and that's where I'm putting the program. Now that event is going to be held in February. Let me pull up my calendar. It's going to be February 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Okay, Valentine's Day. So have your
Valentine's Day.
Chocolates and sweets ready.
It's going to be Central Time. It's going to be from 12 to 1. So it's only an hour a day.
Okay, so that's doable.
It's totally doable, and I tried to make it kind of a lunch hour time, so people, even if they're doing something else, they can set aside time to come into this.
Lunch power hour with Jeremiah Townsend.
That's right. That's exactly it. And so I'm actually giving away everything on how to do business valuations. I'm going to give you the software that I use, which is really inexpensive. There's a couple of different softwares out there, but I'm going to give you the software I'm going to use. And it only runs you a few $100s a year. So people don't know that you can actually get into this for less than $2,000 in software costs and everything else. I'm going to give you the data sources, multiple data sources. I'm going to go over the 5 major business valuation methods and how they apply. And so the very first day, as I'm going to go over the entire course overview, I'm going to share with you, I almost said tell you, I'm going to share with you some of the tips and tricks that you can use in using business valuations, either as a broker or a serious investor. You need to know when to use an asset valuation, when to use an income valuation. So you need to know when to lean more heavily on one or the other, and how you can use those to negotiate either a higher sales price or a lower sales price, depending on what your goal is.
Right.
So I'm going to give you all of that. In day 2, we're going to go over, I'm actually going to show you the software. I'm going to walk you through the process on how I go through all of that. So I'm actually going to walk you through the entire process on day 2. So first, day 1 is an overview. Day 2, I'm actually going to walk you through the process and show you how to do one of those and what it might look like at the end. And then day 3 is actually going to be some negotiations. It's going to get into the weeds, dealing with some negotiation tactics, specifically for brokers on how to value a business. How to price a business valuation. How do you charge money for it? When do you charge money for it? So the going price for a broker opinion of value, just so you know, is $2,500 nationwide. You can get them down to about $1,000, but not every valuation is the same. And so that's something that you should be aware of. So you need to know when to use one as a broker, when to offer it, when to give it away for free. So with some of my networking group, I offer wholesale pricing for select individuals. For example, I work with certain real estate industries, and for them, I'll offer a wholesale pricing on the valuation so that they can actually get it done for their business real estate clients. And I'll go through that process for them at a much reduced rate. And I'll only charge the full price later on after we closed. So it really makes it, I get into the money side on Thursday.
Okay, great. And so then, so this is going to be all live streamed on Facebook.
Yeah. In fact, Sean, you should be there with me. You want to be there with me?
Yeah, I have it on my calendar.
Okay. All right. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah. So the first day is the overview. The second day is we're getting into the nuts and bolts of doing a business valuation. And the third day, we're getting into pricing and all the money stuff, like how you're going to charge for it, how you do upsells, cross sells, and different promotions for it and stuff like that.
Right. So what are some of the ways they can find this? They can search your name now. Again, it's Jeremiah Townsend, but it's JERAMIAH.
And
Townsend.
you can do jeremiahtownsend.com. You can go there. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And you can, those are really the three places that you're going to find this information. Or I know of this one show called The Choreography of Negotiation that I was interviewed on, and I might mention it there.
Yeah, right. And this will actually be broadcast out to our audience, and we'll also put it up on our page, so you'll be able to find it there. And of course, I'll be promoting it in Facebook, LinkedIn, throughout all my social media and my and to my list as well.
And Sean, the thing is, this is free.
Yeah.
I'm giving this away. You know, I charge thousands of dollars for this, and I'm literally giving it away.
Yeah. And just so the listeners know, because this is very important. And by the way, since we both have a connection to Jeff Walker does something called the product launch formula. So the way it works is that when you have a product or a service, what you want to do is you want to develop everything, and then you want to do a pre-launch, and then a pre-launch, and then a launch. The pre-launch is going to be like the pink spoon at Baskin Robbins. You're going to taste everything that they provide at the high level, but it's just on a pink spoon. Then you get a quart, and then you get a gallon, right? So This is the pre-launch where we're going to pile on the cool. You're going to get everything that you get paid. But the reason we're doing this is the people that show up, a few things that we're going to request is for a testimonial. And the one question that I ask people all the time, which is, if there's one thing that you could change about my company, what would that one thing be? So we're going to actually put out a Q&A to where we're going to answer your questions, but we're also going to put out a survey asking what you liked and what you didn't like. That way we can bring a better product to everyone. So the reason you want to come to this is it's literally a $5,000 class that we're just giving out there for free, and it's only this one time. So you're going to want to show up. And again, what were the dates? It's going to be February 14th,
15th, and 16th.
Which are, is that a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And at what time?
It's at 12 Central.
12 Central.
12 to 1.
That's 12 Central. That's going to be 10 Pacific, and it's going to be 1 o'clock Eastern.
They're going to have to double check that. My Eastern Western time zones get confused.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I got them down. I'm all about that because I do events for a living. So yeah, and we'll put some more information on the website. So it's wonderful to have you on this. I look forward to doing another podcast with you. We'll do one after this event. And so once again, to find Jeremiah Townsend, remember it's JERAMIAH Townsend, TONSEND.com. Find all the
TOWN.
Huh?
TOWN.
What, did I miss the W? Yeah. Well, you know why I missed the W? I just didn't say it. So it's Townsend, just like it sounds. Townsend. 2 words. Jeremiah, Jeramiah. So jeremiahtownsend.com. Go ahead and go there. And we're going to have a form for you to sign up early bird so you can get on there. So that way you're not going to miss this. And we'll send you an email reminder or text reminder so you can get on board.
Sean, thank you so much for the time today. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Okay. Thank you so much for showing up. We'll talk to you soon.